So at first, the show was actually pretty edgy, and I don't say that about a lot of shows. The fact that they're hanging out, these two kids, and he's only hanging out with her because he wants to kill her, that's an edgy premise, and it made for some pretty hilarious dark humor when she's like, do you want to go back to your house? And he flashes in his mind to a scene of him killing her, and then kind of nervously smiles with his foppish hair and says, yeah, sure, let's go back. It was funny, I laughed. And then the show started to shift where some really bad stuff happened to these two kids, and you saw that for all their act of being these badass, rebel, tough people, they're just sad, vulnerable kids fundamentally. And I liked how it started making that shift, and I felt it matured a bit as the show. And then we see the two of them start to hook up, and you get this great realistic depiction of how guys aren't always the sexual aggressors, especially when kids are younger a lot of the time. And then you get this heartbreaking scene where he's screwed up at having sex with her, and then he goes and picks a flower, and he's all ready to apologize and hold the flower out to her when she comes home. And then she brings back this guy who she's going to go bang to get revenge, and he's just standing there holding the flower, and she doesn't even look at him, doesn't even see the flower, just marches upstairs with this guy. It was heartbreaking. And then when she tells the guy to F off, and she does it really strong. I thought it was a great depiction of how you should tell a guy to F off if you don't want to sleep with him. And then you get the first major twist, I guess, where it turns out the kid who thinks he's a psychopath, turns out they've landed at an actual psychopath's house, and he sees all these photos of these girls that have been tortured and killed. And at that point, I started to get worried, and I really started to get worried for the direction the show was going to go. But when you first see him as a character, the psychopath, he was very chilling, very compelling. When he got stabbed, it's very gory, the blood spurts out. It was still okay, but I started to get worried about the direction. And boy, was I ever right to get worried, because for a show that I thought started out so edgy and then was so unpredictable and so interesting for the first couple episodes, right from where they killed the psychopath, I should say serial killer, right from where they killed the serial killer, it just went downhill from there. And it was so predictable, it was so uninteresting, just meandering, spinning its wheels. But I'll talk about why exactly. So at that point, she turns on him for killing that serial killer. And at this point, I just don't understand why the show felt the need to make it so black and white and have the guy that he killed be one of the biggest monsters who's ever existed. If he has more than 10 victims, he's one of the top 100 serial killers of all time. So why would a show that started so edgy and seemed like it was going to push the box, why would not just have, push the envelope, sorry, not push the box, why would they have him kill such a monster and just take out any kind of moral ambiguity or complexity? And it just made everything not believable. Like, really, she saw the photo, she knows what a big monster he is, and she's going to have such a reaction and run away, and we're going to have this whole rigmarole where she's not sure she can really be with him anymore, and he's going to have all this guilt and maybe turn himself in. It just didn't seem believable when they could have just made the guy kind of an asshole and he stabs, and then it's everything that they would have done would have been more believable for me. Eventually she says, I forgive you, she comes back. The whole thing was just kind of a waste of time. Then they have this fun little episode where they go and rob this gas station, and it's kind of fun, it's a nice scene, but we're getting now to like episode 7 and 8 where the show should be really wrapping up, creating some momentum, and it just seems like we haven't really advanced one iota from the start. We're back to this Bonnie and Clyde vibe. The kids haven't learned anything, they're not maturing, and it's just going to be a nothing show where they just kind of go on a few adventures and then the show ends. And then she goes to where she thinks her dad is, and it turns out her dad's not there. So then they go to a different place, and the dad's there this time. And again, it's just, we're so late in the show. Why did we have this waste of 5-10 minutes of going to the house where it wasn't the dad, and then they just go to the house where it is the dad? It just doesn't make sense. And then we're at the dad's house, they're throwing knives on the beach. It's kind of funny. Again, it's a fun scene, but it's just, we're now so close to the end of the series, and it's clear nothing's really going to be resolved, nothing's going to happen, we haven't built to anything, no threads are converging. It's just different adventures that these two crazy kids on the run from a world that's horrible are going on. And then the entire brunt of the end of the show is her relationship with her dad, which was introduced so late. It just wasn't a satisfying climax to the show. You want to have some threads that are followed through all the way and kind of come to a resolution. You don't want to just introduce this thread super late in the game and then make the whole show about that. And the whole show, you really feel for the kid's dad, because his dad is not a bad guy. He's a normal guy. He's kind of a putz, but he's fundamentally just a decent, good guy. And his wife commits suicide from depression. And then what does his son do? His son runs away, commits crimes, and he's lying for his son. He's sticking up for him. And you're heartbroken for this guy. And you think the show is gonna have the kid realizing what a horrible, unforgivable thing him punching his dad and running away and putting his dad through this is. But then no, at the end there's no resolution whatsoever with him and his dad, and the show ends by him running away for no reason. It doesn't make any sense. What is he going to do for the rest of his life if he gets away? He's never going to see his dad. He's never going to come home. He's just going to live on the run. To what end? I guess the idea is supposed to be that by running away and never seeing his dad, he's sacrificing himself so she's going to get off scot-free and they're not going to press any charges against her, which makes no sense. There's no reason why running away that makes it more likely that they're going to take it easy on her. He could just stay and get arrested, reconcile with his dad, and just say, I did everything just the same. He could take the rap much better and more easily if he stays. So it makes no sense. Him running away doesn't help her one iota. It's funny how he hits her with a gun, I guess, and maybe that makes it seem like he was the aggressor at all, but I mean, cops aren't that stupid. They're going to understand what he's doing. So by the end of the series, what's the point of the show? The point of the show is the world sucks and is a shitty place and you should rebel and lash out against it, and that's righteous, which is fine. And then the other point is, if you're a kid that's torturing and killing animals, you just haven't met the right girl yet. And when you meet the right girl, you realize that was just a phase, and all the animal torturing, you're not really a psychopath, you just had some trauma. And that brings me to another little quibble. They shouldn't have had the animal torture and killing at the beginning, because if you're someone who doesn't really feel strong emotions because you underwent some sort of trauma, and by meeting the right girl, you can develop those emotions again, you're not going to be killing and torturing animals. That's for real effed up psychopaths. So I feel like they just added that at the beginning to make the show edgy and to draw people in, and then have this bait and switch, but it really hurt the realistic portrayal of the character. It didn't jive at all. Now, positives, I'll say throughout the show, there were funny laugh out loud lines. When the dad, who's a hippie, is like, don't worry, I've got some arnica for it, and the cop's like, let's not piss in the wind. If you know anything about holistic or alternative medicine, you'll probably chuckle at that. So honestly, it's not a bad show. It's pretty funny consistently throughout. The duo at the center, they're likable. They're not hard to watch at all. I was just disappointed because from the start, I really thought the show was going to go somewhere. I was going to say something about society, about humanity. It was going to make some kind of point. The kids were going to mature or grow or learn something. And I found it was just shallow, superficial fun throughout, which isn't a bad thing. So I can't say the show's terrible. You shouldn't watch it. It's just, I think, ultimately going to be a letdown because I feel the first episodes were a lot stronger and it peters out. And I always penalize shows that kind of peter out towards the end much worse than shows that finish strong. If you like my review, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, you can click my face at the end of the video to subscribe. If you leave a comment, let me know how you like the show. Tell me why I'm wrong about it, why it was a great show. Any other comments about my reviews in general, just leave a comment and I'll be sure to read it and reply.